There was once a young man who got out of high school and was wondering what to do with the rest of his life ahead of him. And he looked around at various occupations and careers and employments. And he thought it might be wise to do something that he enjoyed doing. So he looked inside himself and he said, well, I enjoy music. I like music. Maybe I could become a professional musician. But it was just a vague thought, so he thought he'd think about it for a little bit and investigate the world of music. And he was astonished and interested to find the hundreds of varieties of music. For example, there was jazz, and there was ragtime, and there was Dixieland, and there was opera music, and there was patriotic songs and religious music, and there were brass bands and string quartets. But it fascinated him. He liked music. So he said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a professional musician. And I think I'll play the accordion. I like the accordion. So he bought an accordion, he practiced, and he watched other performers and became quite proficient musician. And then he started getting small little professional engagements, small little places where he'd play for the evening. Some place he'd play free. Very often he'd play for free just to get experience. But he had a unique touch about him. He could play the accordion way above average so that people noticed it and they appreciated it. And he liked the feeling of it, kind of music he liked to play. He liked what he was doing. So he advanced in his professional career week by week, month by month. Finally, he was playing at big fairs and large parties and with orchestras as a featured soloist. So he's quite pleased with what he was doing. But one thing he enjoyed most of all was to play the kind of music that he liked to play. Because when he had first searched out the world of music and he saw that all the Dixieland and all the religious music and all the varieties of music, he said, there's one type of music that I like best, and that is simply pleasant, sweet music with a melody that doesn't offend the ears. That kind of music is natural to my nature. That's what I like to play. And he said, for example, the waltz is a perfect example of the kind of music I like to play. So he became an expert on playing waltzes on the accordion. That became his trademark. And people recognized his skill at it and expected him to play waltzes. So time went on, and one day he was sitting at home, and he got a telephone call. And when the caller introduced himself, he was a little bit astonished. He thought it might have been a joke at first, but it wasn't. The voice said, "This is Governor Smith." And his ears picked up, "This is the governor of the state calling me. I wonder what the governor could want." And the governor said, "I've personally selected your name to be the featured soloist at our annual dance festival." And the young musician, he knew what that was. The annual dance festival was at the state fair where they had enormous acres of flat grass where hundreds of dancers would come out as part of the overall festivities with banquets. There's lots of dancing out on this block long, longer than that, grass. And the musicians would be up on the platform at one end, of course, with their microphones, which would go all over, and the musicians would stand up there and play, and all the dancers would dance. So he was so delighted, of course, that the governor had asked him to be the featured soloist at the dance. So the time came, and as he got up there, he could just see his career doubling and tripling, his money-making capacity from it growing, and the fame, why there were tens of thousands of people coming in and out, dancing and seeing him. And he was the featured soloist. Came the first day of the dance and banquet. So he got up on the platform and started to play the accordion. And he played a pretty waltz. Everyone applauded politely at the end. He took a little rest, time for him to play again. He played another pretty waltz. Applauded him again. Sat down. This went on for 2 or 3 hours. He played his nice, pretty waltzes on the accordion. and everyone seemed to appreciate it. When he got up for about the fifth time, after he was getting up to play, to start his own preferred kind of music, he noticed a little restlessness out there in the crowd, especially those that were closer to him. And someone yelled out, "No more waltzes. Play us some Dixieland or play us some jazz or something." And that's the first time he'd ever encountered opposition to the kind of music that he wanted to play, which was a pretty soothing waltz. So he didn't quite know how to answer. So instead of answering, he just did his best to play the kind of music they wanted him to play. And for the first time, he ceased to enjoy music. For the first time, he sensed a difference inside of him in which he knew that something was wrong, but he couldn't quite figure it out. So this went on for the whole day, and people kept yelling out their ridiculous titles, the Froggy Hop Wiggle song. So that's what they asked for. So he played the Froggy Hop Wiggle, and all the ridiculous little dancers danced to it. And he despised playing the Froggy Hop Wiggle. But he also remembered how much money he was getting. And he also remembered that next year they might want him back again if he played the Froggy Hop Wiggle. So he spent the whole afternoon doing that and feeling very sad and feeling very divided because he wasn't getting natural pleasure within himself. He wasn't playing, you're following this, aren't you? He wasn't playing his own music. He went home that night when the state fair and the dancing was over. He went home that night with an awful lot of money. And he got lots of phone calls for more engagements to play around the state and out of the state. And he got his name written up in the paper. And he was so delighted with his fame. And Nashville called him to do an album. And he was very, very sad and very, very sick inwardly. And he began to sense what he had done wrong. And you were following this too, aren't you? They'd played music that wasn't natural to him. So next year came, and he remembered the wrong thing. He remembered all the money and all the fame and all the girls who rushed up to him for their autograph books. And so he played the Froggy Hop Wiggle again all afternoon long. And went home sadder that year. 2 or 3 years passed, and all the time he would play the kind of music that they demanded. But the rewards are so enormous. This is what he had worked for, to become rich and famous, and now he had it. How come I feel so strained inside instead of fulfilled? 5th year he stood up there, and someone yelled out for the Froggy Hop Wiggle. He said, "No." He said, "No, I'm going to play the Missouri Waltz." And they yelled back, "Froggy Hop." And he yelled back, "Blue Danube." And they yelled out, "Froggy Hop." And he yelled out, "Beautiful Ohio." And he stood his ground. And all afternoon he played beautiful waltzes. And he was happy playing them. And he was never, never, never asked back again. And he said, "At last I found the secret of real happiness, to play the kind of music that I want to play and not subject myself to the demands of Froggy Hoppers." Point clear? Anything that is unnatural to us has to be unhappy. Now I will tell you that there is a certain distinction that you have to make in your life, which is this. You have to begin to see the difference between natural pleasure and unnatural pleasure. And unnatural pleasure is quite available, quite obvious for you to see if you want to be true. What is it? Name it. You want to have a mere idea that someone else can do your inner work for you, that's a very unnatural pleasure because it isn't true. And I could say all the obvious things, which I will. The unnatural pleasures of someone telling you how nice you are, how valuable you are, how much they need you. The unnatural pleasure of fawning before other people, of giving them things, trying to buy their friendship, for example. You go home tonight and you make a list and put at the top of it unnatural pleasures, and make a long list as you can. An excitement you get, gentlemen, when a pretty woman smiles at you. The unnatural pleasure of that. You're living off of that little smile she gave you, or the flattery, and you hope that more will come of it. Don't you see how you have wrongly attached yourself to a mere idea of future bliss? And if it isn't now, it's never going to be. And you see all these false rewards that you're looking forward to, and even if you get the thrillism of it, you're going to feel divided, just like the musician did. On the other side of the page, you'll only have to put one thing. Be who I really am, which is the same thing as saying, you're going to play your own music. Do you understand that within human personality, within inside of every human personality, you're a girl and you're a boy, you're a certain age, you're younger or older, or you're a certain occupation, or you're of a certain race. You understand that inside that, those outer differences, every human being yearns for the same thing, which is simply to be one with himself. That's what it means to play your own music. To not yield to the demands of society, not yield to the demands, the wrong demands of your own inner nature, which in the case of the musician said, look at what I'm getting out of it. Look the more I'll get if I do what they want me to do, if I play their kind of music instead my own. But you say, and a lot of people will make the following mistake. They'll say, look, this is a very highly competitive world. I want to pile up just as much money as I can, so I'll always have a resource in case something goes wrong with the economics. Do you know what you just said when you say that? Do you know that you don't believe in truth at all when you make a remark like we talked recently about being taken care of? Do you want this world to take care of you? Is that why you yield to their demands for that sick kind of music? Because you think that they can take care of you? They can't take care of themselves. No one out on that grass ground, 500, 1,000 dancers on there, every one of them demanding that you conform to what they want. Don't you know that they can't take care of themselves? So your very belief that if you conform to them, if you yield to them, your belief that if you go along with them is false to begin with. And they'll turn on you, and the first demand will turn into 10 demands, then into 20, and you have sold your soul. I'm telling you, all the thoughts you have about security, all the thoughts you have and all the belief you have that you must yield yourself to their demands out there, all these are mere thoughts, and they're false thoughts at that. And when you can see your own mind ready to yield in order to get something from someone out there, if you can watch the movement of your own mind and see that it is shakily ready to compromise, can you then remember what you're told here? Can you begin to understand that you do have something that's very immortal? You have something that is always at peace with itself. It has nothing to do. It has nothing in common with those demands. It's so simple and so difficult for us to see that you don't have to yield to the angry, subtle, promising, or whatever demands of the outer world. What do you care as long as you have just enough money to keep the roof over your head and enough to eat? That's all that's required of the physical body. Where are you living? If you're living in time, then you're going to be a victim of it, and you're going to look forward to next year when you can compromise again and get more famous and get more money. And all the time you will be driving yourself mad. The next time someone yells at you, and I know you're following the illustration so you can parallel it with your own life. The next time someone yells out the froggy hop wiggle music, you say, no, I want peace, peace of mind. Because I found out, sir or madam, you're saying, I found out that the only thing I can get by yielding to what you want me to do, the only thing I can get is sicker.